Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Bhava Girivardhari Gopijana Bhava Girivardhari Yashodanandana Pratijana Vanjana Nandana Pratijana Vanjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Pratijana Vanjana Yashodanandana Pratijana Vanjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Asasata Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Asasata Shishimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Natakoti Vaishnavinda Ki Narmacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Yamuna Devi Ki Ganga Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Dham Ki Sankirtan Yagya Ki Gaur Premanandi all glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Mother Kamalini. And thank you, Apurva Prabhu, also for being there with us. And thank you all dear devotees who are attending this class. So today we have with us a very special speaker. Mother Kamalini, don't let her youthful looks fool you. She's been around for a while. She's a very seasoned preacher, and she's an emblem of sobriety and seriousness in Krishna consciousness. I have known her for many years now, and she just treats me with so much loving motherly affection, and it's just very natural for her. So I'm very grateful for her presence in our lives. She is a senior devotee, of course, and a disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. She came into contact with ISKCON in 1972, receiving a Back to Godhead magazine and an invitation to the Sunday Love Feast. She received initiation from Srila Prabhupada on January 1st, 1975, which is substantially earlier than I was even born. In October of 1976, she got married to His Grace Apurva Prabhu. Apurva Prabhu, by the way, he is one of ISKCON's most celebrated chefs, and just a wonderful, very famous devotee. And anybody who tastes his cooking will get blown over with the amazing taste. Now, they have two grown children, Gauranga Priya Devadasi and Amala Harinam. Amala Harinam Prabhu, you might have seen him performing kirtan, as well as, they also have four grandchildren. So her main devotional activities have included book distribution, teaching devotee preschool, and assisting Apurva Prabhu in a number of Govinda restaurant services and catering. So they reside at the new Goloka temple community in Hillsborough, North Carolina. And we are very grateful, and it's our distinct pleasure to have you, Mother Kamalini. And tonight's topic is the eyes to see Krishna. So we're very much looking forward to hear from. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for such a welcome. Well, I wonder if everyone's thinking, yes, that's on my bucket list, that I want to see Krishna. Who doesn't want to have darshan of Krishna? It's really our greatest aspiration. But is it very easy to see Krishna eye to eye? Like, do we have the proper facility? You could say, the proper vehicle, the proper tool. Do these eyes actually allow us to see Krishna? It's like there's one thing to perceive something, and then another thing is to comprehend it. So, for example, I was thinking, like I may perceive, like if I go to a hospital, I might perceive the X-ray. I might perceive all of the different names of the diseases, but I don't comprehend them. I don't know, like I can't read an X-ray unless it's blatantly obvious, but generally I don't have the education for that. Or like nowadays, all these computer engineers, they have their own language for programming computers. And of course, to me, it looks like total gibberish. I have no comprehension what any of it means. Or I've never even seen a graph of the stock market. Now, for me, it carries absolutely zero weight. But others may see it who have invested in the stock market, and they may even have a heart attack by viewing it when they see that their investment has gone and crashed. So we see there's many things to see, and Krishna is everywhere, but do we have the eyes to see him? So just like these mundane examples, through education, any one of us, some of you already are knowledgeable in certain of those fields, but any one of us could gain the comprehension. So similarly, to see Krishna, my tea's over there, it also requires a kind of education. So that education is what allows us that vision. Hold on. Yes, okay. So what is our education and where do we get it from? Like how does, like Krishna, we know we can't demand it. Like an atheist will say, I don't believe in God. Well, if you show me God, then maybe I'll believe in him. But we say you'll only believe in him I mean, you'll only see him if you believe in him. So we can't just show you, because that showing, it comes through the divine revelation due to the Lord's own sweet, independent will. But being so merciful as he is, he's continuously coming down, just like some of our temples on the farms, they have cows, and some of the cows are docile. So a little child, they'll want to pet the cow on the head, and they'll be reaching up, reaching up, reaching up, but they can't reach the top of the head of the cow, or even a calf if it's a young child. But if the cow will come down and bend its head forward, then the child can pet the head. So similarly, we're dependent on the avatar, the descendant of the Lord. The Lord has to descend, and we see he's very, very eager to give us many opportunities so that we can perceive him. Now, to give us that kind of, the eyes that they have to be, we know, smeared, premanjana charita bhakti vilochanayana. They have to be smeared with the salve of love. Otherwise, even if the Lord were personally to appear as he did when he was here 5,000 years ago, and then avajananti mamudha manusham tanam ashrita param bhava majananto mama bhuta maheshwara, that fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. So even if the Lord is right in front of us, if we don't have those eyes smeared with the salve of love, then we still will not be able to recognize him. We will not be able to have that aspiration of darshan of the Lord. Now, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, he wrote a chapter. There's these wonderful books called Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Vaibhava, a 3-volume work written by His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami, who spent 20 years researching to write these books and reading, all of the writings that were in Bengali, Oriya, and Hindi, all different languages, because Srila Bhakti Siddhanta wrote every day and he spoke every day. So there's one chapter in here called The Seer and the Seen, and it's very significant because Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, when one of his scholarly disciples named Sundarananda Vijabinod, he was taking dictation to write a biography about Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, he spoke this, drasta means the seer, and then drishya means that which is seen. So he said, whatever I have to say, my whole message is based on proper comprehension of this truth. But how few people have really understood this drig drishya vichar. So he spoke this on numerous occasions while showering tears, because he considered, like he said, my whole message is based on it. So we know, to some extent, we know this, that whatever we are seeing, like what's the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee, because we are doing many of the very same activities of a gross materialist or even of an atheist. We do the same things. And so what's the difference? So we already know the difference is how we're perceiving things, that I'm not the center and I'm not the enjoyer. Rather, everything is a manifestation of Krishna's energy, and everything is meant for his enjoyment. Now, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, he says over here that, let me see, he said that that Goloka darshan, there's two kinds of darshan. So one is Goloka darshan, and the other is Jagat darshan, or worldly vision or spiritual vision. So by Goloka darshan, Krishna is perceived as the center of existence, and everything in this world as paraphernalia for serving him. And then Jagat darshan means the jiva considers himself the center of existence and views everything, even the Godhead, as paraphernalia for his personal sense enjoyment. By Goloka Darshan, one sees and lives in the spiritual realm, even while present in the mundane sphere. Now, Srila Prabhupada was once being driven to some preaching engagement, and a devotee, the driver, he kind of went a different way than he intended, and they passed through a slum. And he said, "Oh, sorry, Srila Prabhupada, that we're coming this way." And Prabhupada said, "What's the problem? We're in Vaikuntha, because here we are, we're in the car and we're talking about Krishna. This is Vaikuntha consciousness, speaking of Krishna." And I was thinking, wow, if everything is Vaikuntha, and how this Goloka Darshan, one sees everything, and he lives in the spiritual world. Well, we know right now in the world, there's quite a bit of unprecedented in our lifetime, or unprecedented, social unrest. It's like unbelievable that people can be so savage, you can say, and also just like so dissatisfied, so out of harmony with Krishna's natural laws for us. I was thinking, how am I supposed to see that as Goloka, and that for the Lord's enjoyment? How can it be? So I realized, I was pondering it, and then I realized, well, because it's all Krishna's energy, and it's Daivi Hiyesha Gunamayi, that this is the material energy, and it is from Krishna. That's why it's so bewildering. People are able to be that bewildered because it is the Lord's divine energy. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible. And so it's because, again, of the disharmony. When the jiva has that free will, he chooses to live this way and create that kind of unrest and all. But how can this be for Krishna's pleasure? Well, because we know it gives Krishna like a pinprick to see his parts and parcels living in such distress, such tremendous distress. And we kind of take it for granted. I think most of us devotees, some of you live in the big cities like New York City, maybe Chicago, and that's like, it's very much prominent before your eyes. But for those of us who live more in the suburbs or even in the country, things haven't changed a great deal. Of course, we're observing social distancing, not getting together as much as like we used to, or visiting the temple like we used to. But still, we have our daily routine of sadhana bhakti, and pretty much it's going on, and we see Krishna still feeding us. I don't think anybody's starving here. Like, we're still getting, we even have, electricity, running water, all of these things that we take for granted that many people in the world don't have. So it's easier, you could say, to perceive Vaikuntha. So this is very revealing what Srila Bhakti Siddhanta is saying, how the Lord is coming to us. So I would like to just read a little. like I said in the beginning, we all would love to have darshan, and some of you may have had personal darshan of the Lord. And but most of us are only aspiring and feeling like a dwarf who wants to catch the moon. So he's there, like he wrote an article in the Gaudiya called Venu O Vapu. So more or less Avani or Vapu, but he says one who asks the guru, show me Bhagavan. He can never really be attracted to the sweetness of Krishna's flute. Oh, so that's Venu, hearing the flute and seeing the form. He can never be attracted to the sweetness of Krishna's flute, from which all Vani emanates, so all vision of the Lord emanates. But those who genuinely want to serve the form of Godhead request a guru. Hold on, want to bring Kelsey in? We're having a rainstorm here. So by your instructions, please correct and purify me and give me eyes by which I may actually see. Godhead must be seen how? First through the ears. So first Vani, then Vapu. The ears prepare the eyes. So as I mentioned about education, that education comes through hearing. And as Krishna says, or the Srimad Bhagavatam says, that Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Vijyanchasto Yavajrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So that is like the preparation, gradually cleansing the heart so that we become eligible, so that we become recipients of the Lord's divine mercy upon us. So he said, and like Srila Prabhupada also quoted this, like act in such a way that Krishna will want to see you, not that just so that you can see Krishna. So he said also, not that we deny that, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta said, it is necessary to seek the sight of Krishna. That should be our first and only endeavor. Our souls can have no real function till we are face to face with the divinity. Sri Krishna shows himself to those who prefer his service to any other occupation. So seeing Bhagavan means total engagement of the senses in his service. In other words, serving the Lord 24 hours a day with all one's senses means being established in one's primal constitutional position in which one naturally sees Bhagavan. By the Guru's mercy and strength gained from personal bhajan, one becomes fully aware of Krishna's manifestation, both internally and externally. That is seeing Bhagavan. So otherwise, we're always thinking, let me see. And instead of like when we say, come, let's go for darshan of the deities, we want to go and see the deities beautifully decorated and the beautiful garlands. And that's wonderful to appreciate the devotion of all of those servants of the Lord. But Srila Bhakti Siddhanta is stating darshan means I go and say, okay, I want the Lord to see me, that I have come before him, and so that he can see that I'm endeavoring to be sincere, to serve him, to recognize him to submit to him. And so the thing is that otherwise, like it can be like for enjoyment. And we see that in any devotional service, really, almost all service, we can think, I enjoy this service. And of course, service is meant to give us some kind of attraction to Krishna, but we have to always keep in mind it's for his pleasure. Just like when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, he was once standing at the doorway of the temple, the inner sanctum, looking at the deities of Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giritari. But he didn't have his glasses on. And one of his disciples said, "Do you need your glasses?" And he just smiled and he said, "We should not think of the Supreme Lord as the object of our vision. Instead, we should meditate on how we can acquire some qualification to become worthy objects of his vision. So we should consider whether he wants to see us and reveal himself to us." Now, also, when he used to go, like just as Lord Chaitanya at the Jagannath Puri temple, he used to stand just like Lord Chaitanya right behind the Garuda Stamba. And he would stand there instead of right up close. And he said, because Garuda, he's a great devotee, and the Lord will look at his devotee, Garuda. And when he looks at Garuda, and if we're right behind Garuda, then he will also cast his merciful glance upon us. And so he's saying, yeah, like this, we want the Lord to see us. And also, like, you know, like, like he's saying, hearing is the most important, how he was giving a lecture and some devotees left. You know, they didn't come to the lecture, they went for darshan. And so then when they came back, he said, even now you are very late, you know, late for the lecture. You're wandering here and there, going to see Jagannath through these eyes. But it's just simple curiosity mixed with personal sense gratification. I'm not saying not to go to the temple to see Lord Jagannath, but Jagannath will see. So again, this great importance of seeing. And he said also a sadhu. How do we see a sadhu? We know those of us brought up in the West, we never heard of a sadhu and didn't have this culture. But in India, people know to get the blessings of a sadhu, they want to go and see them. But we heard also, what does that mean? It means going and hearing from the sadhu. So that's what it means. Otherwise, he's saying we're just measuring, like measuring with our mundane senses and mundane perception. And as Lord Brahma prayed that, you know, like sometimes some great scientists, they may be able to count all of the atoms, all of the stars in the sky, all of the planets and every particle of snow. They may be able to do that. And, but still, they cannot touch the limits of the Lord. He was praying to the Lord. They can have no access. They may be able to do all that other kind of measuring, but our Lord cannot be measured in that way by these very mundane kind of perceptions. Now, Lord Chaitanya also, you know, he's on several occasions, he told devotees, like when he was going to South India and Gadadhar Pandit was there, remember, and he got into a boat and Gadadhar Pandit wanted to come and Lord Chaitanya said, no, you have to stay here. Coming with me is simply for sense gratification. Your duty is to serve Gopinath Didi. So you stay here. And then again, imagine Rupa Goswami like spending 10 days, I believe, and this hearing from Lord Chaitanya. And then Lord Chaitanya was leaving to go to go to Jagannath Puri, I believe, and so he said, I want to go with you. Rupa Goswami said, I won't be able to bear the separation. And Lord Chaitanya's like, no, you've come this far. Your duty is to go to Vrindavan. I want you to do service there. I want you to excavate the holy places and to write literature based on everything I've been teaching you this time. And there were other instances too where no, that this is not, to be with me is not what pleases me the most. Of course, it's very pleasing to be with Lord Chaitanya, because Lord Chaitanya, he that this is even not even hearing from him, just seeing his ecstatic beauty. His beauty was his weapon, and it captivated people, and it made devotees, and it made those Mayavadi sannyasis headed by Prakashananda Saraswati, just seeing him and inviting him in, it like turned their hearts. So this is very beautiful. So, this is very potent, seeing the Lord. But on several instances, he instructed them that no, you should stay here. And others wanted to always go with him. And he said, stay here and preach and hear Srimad Bhagavatam and chant Hare Krishna and teach others. And Lord Nityananda, he even told him, don't come to Jagannath Puri every year with the other devotees from Navadvip. Stay there and engage in preaching. And so this importance of what pleases the Lord the most. Now, who else actually had this darshan? Now, those devotees who had darshan, they generally really, really prayed for that darshan. It's like they prayed or they meditated or they performed sacrifice. Like, for example, Dhruva, right? Little Dhruva, 5 years old, the severe austerities and meditation that he engaged in. So, and meditation so that he can have darshan. And then Prahlad Maharaj, all of the times being tortured, he actually had darshan of Krishna. We generally think of him as a bhakta of Lord Nrsimhadev, but really his Ishtadev is Lord Krishna. And then King Prithu did this elaborate 99 sacrifices and about to do 100 until Indra stole a horse. And why? They were doing all this so they can have darshan. But at the same time, we see when the Lord does appear, they actually like didn't really expect it. It seems like they were like hoping against hope that it would happen. But then when it happens, all of them, and there's many more instances where they just become totally shocked, and they usually faint, and then they come to external consciousness, and they try to offer prayers, but their voices are choked up and tears are flowing from their eyes, and they have a very difficult time speaking their prayers. And then gradually they regain their composure, and they're able to glorify the Lord with prayers. Also, the Lord, he revealed himself to Ramananda Roy when he was speaking with him, and then he showed him his Sadbhuj form. And on other instances too, that little, remember the Brahmin who was traveling, and then he saw his little Gopal Didi. He made 3 offerings, and Nimai kept stealing those offerings. And then finally, he revealed himself. He said, you keep making an offering and saying all these prayers for me to come and eat. And then when I come to eat, you get all, freaked out and start yelling and wake up the whole household and all. So these, and then he also became totally ecstatic. Now, I don't know if any of you have had a near-death experience, but I haven't. But distributing books, I've met a bunch of people who have. These are ordinary people, and it changes their life. Like they perceive the world totally differently, and their priorities shift. So imagine this having darshan of the Lord, how much anything in the material realm, anything would have no pull. It would have no attraction whatsoever. And so this is the result. So this desire for the darshan, it's not just for sense gratification to gain the greatest ecstasy. Just like you could say like kirtan, it's not just for the ecstasy of dancing and the beauty and all of that wonderful, exhilarating music and all, but it's just for the pleasure of the Lord. So this darshan too, we can imagine, and some of you may have had, like I said, like how it would change our life and make us firmly convinced that there's nothing of attraction in this world. Especially, I just came from New Vrindavan, which is very, very beautiful, and especially this time of year. And then it becomes quite the contrast is very apparent. There's the God made, Krishna made creation where it's a whole lot easier to perceive his presence, his glory, his majesty. And then when you see all the man-made, artificial way of life, all the freeways and the trucks, where the trucks going, what are they bringing, and what to speak of like big office buildings, and what are they doing in there? Like what's going on with all, like it's just like so much contrary to what the Lord wants for us and what our Guru Parampara happens. So all of this seeing, we see it creates very, very great emotion. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, he had like a dream like revelation. You may have read about it and heard about it, how well he had quite a few actually, but one of the most significant one was right after his gurus left. It was very short time between them, a little more than a year and a half between first Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, his initiating guru, and then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his father and Shiksha guru. They both disappeared, and already there was so much opposition that he had to face in preaching Krishna consciousness with all of the many apasampradayas. And so he was feeling a little despondent, and he didn't want to see anybody. He didn't want to go out. He stopped his writing, and he just like kind of sat down in bhajan. He was no longer, like I said, he used to give lecture every day, and he was no longer doing that, just feeling so bereft. Because as he said, now who's going to chastise me? He loved getting chastised. And who's going to correct me? And who's going to read anything I write? Who's going to edit it and make sure that the Siddhanta is correct? And he saying this, that we should be so eager to be corrected. Now, of course, people are very sensitive, so you have to be careful. But anyway, as he was sitting there one evening, all of a sudden, and in this book it tells like several of his of his mystical, you could say, experiences. But this one, he was sitting and let's see here, hold on. And what was it? And then all of a sudden, he's just sitting, and right before his eyes appears the whole Panchatattva and his gurus, Gorkishore Das Babaji, and Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and even the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. They appeared right before him, and they said to him, Saraswati, why are you worrying? Begin the work of establishing Shuddha Bhakti, distribute Gauravani universally, expand service to Gora Nam, Gora Dham, and Gora Kam. With unbreached enthusiasm, broadcast Bhakti Siddhanta. We are eternally with you, ready to help. The support of unlimited people, immeasurable opulence, and boundless scholarship await the blessings to serve your mission. All will manifest when required. Come forward with full strength to distribute the message of Mahaprabhu's Prema Dharma throughout the globe. No worldly hindrance or menace will be able to obstruct this undertaking of yours. We are forever with you. So, again, just so significant. He immediately got up and immediately made plans. He asked his disciple to bring his manuscript, right away started writing and planning, traveling and preaching. Now, what's another way to have darshan of the Lord? Perhaps some of you had dreams of the Lord. I asked Siddhanta Prabhu, who is the devotee who has recorded all of the Prabhupada memories, and I asked him, do you also record dreams that devotees have of Prabhupada? And he said, no dreams. I don't allow any dreams because dreams, could be speculation and, or just the workings of the mind or the restless mind. So we know that's true. We know how dreams can be bizarre and they're just a combination of our subconscious experiences or desires and sometimes jumbled up. But then again, there's many very significant dreams. Perhaps some of you have had significant dreams where you received an instruction from your guru or from the Lord himself, and you actually felt that you were to act upon it. So you could probably think of a few from the scriptures. First of all, our Srila Prabhupada, his guru appeared to him and said, I want you to take sannyas. So you should take sannyas. He said, I was horrified, but he took sannyas upon that dream. And then on the Jaladuta, Krishna appearing before him and, assuring him that he was with him and that he would be able to pass. And then I think the most famous dream is Madhavendra Puri dreaming and the Gopal, that boy, he didn't realize it was Krishna and telling him, Brajanath, like long ago, that's when Lord Krishna was here. They buried me because the Muslims were invading, and I've been in the bushes they hid me in the bushes for that long. That's like, 5,000 years almost. And so dig me up. So imagine if he didn't have that dream, the Gopal Didi would still be there. And then when Lord Chaitanya came back from South India, he sent one devotee, Krishnadas, because remember Krishnadas, he had gotten in trouble with the Bhattaharis and all. So he told them, go away. I don't want you here. So the devotees thought of, and then he said, go send a message to Navadvip that I'm back from South India. I'm now at Jagannath Puri. So they thought, let's send him because he can still do service, because the devotee always wants the opportunity for devotional service. So when he went and told them, they were very, very happy. And then they all started making plans. Okay, let's go to Jagannath Puri as they did every year when he was gone for 6 years down at South India, but now he came back, and Swarup Damodar said, "Oh, I'm not waiting for everyone. I'm going right now." And he took off and walked all the way to Puri. And when he arrived, he paid his obeisances, he offered prayers, fell flat. Lord Chaitanya picked him up and embraced him. And Lord Chaitanya said to him that that I saw you in a dream that you were coming. And so this is very auspicious. I have been like a blind man, but your coming here restores my vision. So even Lord Chaitanya had revealing dreams. And Krishnadas Kaviraj, he had the dream. Lord Nityananda said, go to Vrindavan, there you will accomplish wonderful things. That morning, got up and immediately, imagine like us, if we just go on a pilgrimage to Vrindavan, right? It takes us weeks to pack and plan and everything, what to speak of moving to Vrindavan. So he just got up and took off, and there he wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita for us. And then Lokanath Goswami had the dream. Lord Chaitanya told him to initiate, I want you to initiate Narottam Das Thakur, give up this false humility. And Sachi Mata had dreamed that her deities, they were actually Krishna and Balaram. And anyway, so many dreams. So this is not like a very whimsical thing, or it can be very significant to have a spiritual dream. And so the Lord reveals himself. So again, we see that he's coming down. He's coming down, always trying to give us opportunity after opportunity to purify our hearts so that we will become qualified to see him. Okay, so I'm gonna stop now. My husband always writes me a note. Okay, stop now and leave time for questions or comments or revelations or experiences if you'd like to share any. I'm going to go to gallery view and see everybody. So anybody have?
I have a comment. I'm feeling thoroughly spiritually refreshed after hearing your wonderful talks. That's my comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I believe our guests are also feeling the same way. I want to acknowledge we have some very senior devotees in our midst. We have Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj also. He's here.
Oh, obeisances.
A member, but just want to let you know. So we have a question from Athena. Athena is a very regular member of this group. So Athena, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Kamalini Mataji. I also want to say I love the Towaco temple sanghas, and you add to it very much. If it's all right, I actually have two questions.
Okay. You always have questions, right?
I do. I apologize.
No, that's a very good sign to always have questions and not become stagnant and just dull, but always have questions. Don't ever stop having questions.
Thank you for the encouragement, and perhaps others for tolerating my many questions. My first one is, we understand that we have to do both Shravanam and Kirtan, hearing and chanting. However, you had mentioned earlier in your lecture that hearing is the most important. We hear many times, though, from other teachers that chanting is most important. Yeah, we know we must do both, but can you, clarify why hearing is the most important?
Well, if we didn't hear that chanting was most important, we wouldn't know. So they both are parallel. And also, the thing is, because this is specifically, it's about having the vision to see the Lord, they're both very important. And of course, chanting is what gives us that access and which purifies the heart. And of course, there can be whole series of lectures just on the glories of the holy name of the Lord. And so, they're both equally important. But without hearing, like I was saying about, chanting can tend to be for my enjoyment more than for Krishna's enjoyment, unless I'm hearing the potency of the holy name and the glories and how the Lord has descended in his holy name and the purifying effects of the holy name. Without hearing any of that, we may just become mechanical in chanting. So by hearing about it, it helps us to chant more effectively and more with a greater, feeling, with greater concentration and all. And of course, it's never, it's always increasing. Anandam, buddhi vardhanam. It's a ever-going, increasing process. So like that. Is that all right? And of course, Jai Dvaita Swami's here for correcting any corrections he'd like to give. Or add, or comments, Okay, was that two questions? Oh, you're on mute. Do
I'm unmuted now. I apologize. I like to mute when the speaker is speaking, and I wasn't able to unmute.
Okay.
My second question, perhaps, it's not so much a revelation, and if it is a tangent, it's related to Jayadvaita Swami's explanation of the spiritual body. So if it's all right, also would like to hear his explanation. But when you had mentioned that dreams could be mental speculation, and we do understand that the mind might concoct things, but everything that happens in dreams, the mind has already seen, whether it be in this life or past lives. So in my dream, if I see a half giraffe, half zebra, I have seen a giraffe and I've seen a zebra, and my mind has put them together. This makes me think of the explanation that, for example, the world that we're living in, this material world, is a dream. We are in a dream, and the moment we go back to Godhead, we wake up. And so if it is a dream, then that means that this world is also a mental concoction of the spiritual mind. And my question is twofold, I guess. One, how is that possible if the spiritual mind is completely pure? And then two, that means perhaps you can't parallel the material mind to the spiritual mind. But if you take that same logic that the mind comes up with dreams of things it has already seen, then that means the spiritual mind has already seen this material world. And how is that possible? We know that once we go back to Godhead, we'll never go into that dream again. So to repeat, the question is, one, how can the spiritual mind, which is pure, come up with this material dream, which is so much suffering? And then two, it must mean that we have been here before. And how is that also possible if we're not supposed to fall down or go into that dream again? Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, first of all, the mind is a material element, right? Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. But you keep talking about the spiritual mind. So of course, that is when the mind is spiritualized. And that's an ongoing process, just like water. Water constitutionally, besides ocean water, but stream, river water, it's pure, but it becomes in contact with impure items or objects, or different kinds of contaminants. So this is due to identification. The mind, like you say, the spiritual mind, but it identifies with the body, and we identify with our material mind. So therefore, it is like you say, we could wake up. I mean, we don't have to wait until we have a total spiritual body. It's gradually becoming spiritual every day by the spiritual process of cleansing the heart. So I don't know if Jayadvaita Swami wants to elaborate on that, but but it will eventually happen. And like you say, how could it possibly have become contaminated like that or lose its spirituality? And as far as all the experiences, not only now, as you mentioned, 8,400,000 species of life. You gave the example of what the giraffe and what else? A horse? Um, you're on mute. But you know, like Prabhupada gives the example of a golden mountain. Yeah, I've seen a mountain and I've seen gold. So I see a golden mountain. But we know there's so many different configurations and of all different experiences like that.
Maharaj is also here, so maybe Maharaj can.
Pisha. And go Pisha. Oh, Maharaj, you said something?
Jayadvaita Maharaj is online.
What you said was fine, and what you said earlier about chanting and hearing was fine also. I was just muted, so I couldn't say so.
Oh.
I was a little confused as to what Tina was saying in her second question. It wasn't.
Yes, I'm unmuted. I apologize. So it's twofold. We are told that when we are experiencing this material world, it is a dream. We are asleep in the spiritual world, and the moment we go back to Godhead, it's like we wake up. And so if this material world is a dream, and it's concocted in one sense by the spiritual mind, which is pure, how is that possible? Because the spiritual mind is pure.
By Krishna's energy. Mama Maya Duratya. Actually, we have nothing to do with the material world. But when we turn away from Krishna, then Maya supplies the necessary contamination that Kamalini was talking about.
Thank you. So it's not that we've also ever experienced this, just Maya takes over and it supplies all the thoughts and the dreams in one sense. Well, when we fall to this state.
Our identification. Yeah. Okay, go Pisha Prabhu.
We had Lalita Prasad Prabhu in mind.
Well, Prasad. Story. Okay, did you want to say something?
Hare Krishna, thank you for a wonderful class. You said the primal constitution of the soul is seeing Bhagavan. However, not everybody's interested in seeing Bhagavan. Some are interested in merging into the existence of Bhagavan. Are these individuals necessarily forced, or do they have a spiritual form like those that want to serve the Lord? That's the question. Well,
you know, like the Brahman effulgence, like you say, people may not want it. Like, it's just like people want so many things, or maybe someone is aspiring to see Jesus or to see another incarnation of the Lord. 8,400,000 species. Every single one of them has devotees of that particular form. So according to the intense desire of the devotee, just like, you know, like a young child, they are kind of, the mother's very busy, you know, and she's cooking and doing house chores and hopefully not just on the phone and on the internet, but you know, but her baby, she has a baby and she has a toddler, and the baby starts crying, and she could tell, the mother tells by the cry, is it serious or not? And she tells the 5-year-old, go, or, you know, like, go give the baby this toy. All right, the baby's pacified for a while. So that toy is kind of like, you know, like a temporary kind of pacifier. But then again, the baby cries, the mother can tell, here, go give the baby a cracker or something. She keeps trying to pacify it. So in the same way, if our desire is not so intense, and then finally the baby cries and the mother knows, oh, now the baby really wants me. And then as soon as she picks the baby up, the baby's happy. So Krishna, he sees, like, we want so many things, and he gives us toys, you know. Here, you can have this possession, you can have this car, this computer, this wife, husband. You can have also like profit, fame, adoration, wealth. Here you go, just be pacified, be pacified. But until we cry ardently for a very long time, like maybe lifetimes, then you know, again, like I talked about these examples of Dhruva, Prahlad, Maharaj Prithu, for so long they were engaging in that ardent desire. But anyway, I may not be answering your question, but yeah, it's true. And plus, most people have no idea what the real desire of the soul is, because again, being covered by the illusory energy, we're wanting only those products of the illusory energy. Of course, the devotee can use material objects in the Lord's service, but still, but yeah, they don't, like you say, don't even realize it or don't want it. Well, you're not going to get it either if you don't ardently desire that and to have that association of the Lord.
Okay, thank you.
Go Pisha Prabhu.
Yes, Gopisha Prabhu, go ahead.
I unmuted.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Kamalini Prabhu, thank you for a wonderful talk. Always wonderful to hear you and see you. Haribol Purva. Glad you guys made it home safely.
Thanks. In the picture.
So you were talking about, like in the case of the Brahmin who visited Jagannath Mishra's home and was trying to prepare his meals, and Devi Nimai kept coming and stealing the prasad. And so this is a devotee who's quite pure, but the Lord was in front of him, but he didn't see him. And it wasn't until the Lord actually revealed himself that Brahmin was actually able to see Krishna. And there's so many instances that we're talking about, and so many times even in Krishna Lila where so many people were seeing the Lord, but they weren't actually seeing him.
Right.
And it was only a lot of austerity, or the Lord. Could you just speak more to that? Because the Lord appears, but we don't necessarily see him.
Right. You know, that Brahmin, he saw Nimai, but he didn't know Nimai is the same Krishna. Nimai told him, you worship me, you know, in my other pastime, in Krishna Lila as well. But and so that many people, yeah, when Lord Krishna was present, the demons, they did not at all recognize that he's the Supreme Lord. And so again, like, how is it not, we know not by austerity, just like Prithu Maharaj, he engaged in 99 horse sacrifices, which is a huge endeavor, but it wasn't the, you know, that sacrifice. It was because he was doing it with the mentality to please the Lord. So we know that the Lord, he can reveal himself like Lord Chaitanya, the most merciful incarnation. He comes and doesn't require that there be any kind of qualification. Like, he will just give love freely to whoever he could. But even then, people try to avoid him. So it's both, you know, and plus, who knows, like, how many lifetimes, perhaps in the past, you know, we have been devotees, or those devotees have engaged in service. And like Srila Prabhupada said, I've created your piety, you know, and Prabhupada's potency is able to bring us to that qualification, like talking about purifying the heart. Well, he also can do that. Like the guru can put in a good word, you know, and allow us to get mercy of Krishna. But who knows, like what the Lord's desire, like what it will take. But we know that if we just keep endeavoring and to purify the heart, and at the same time depend on the mercy, just like the kitten in the mother's mouth, right? Like you know, it's the cat is death personified for the rat, but affectionate mother for the kitten. So I don't know. So yeah, what does it take? But it's good we aspire to serve and to keep hearing and chanting and serving and worshiping.
Thank you very much. We are pretty much out of time, but we have a comment from Neelamani Prabhu, our temple president.
Right, and
Go ahead,
Chaitanya Bob has a question.
Sorry. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanvat Pram. This is Neelamani Das.
Jai, Hare Krishna.
Thank you for a wonderful class. I had a comment or a question that I've often heard, that actually we should not desire to see the Lord, right? And we should not worry about having darshan of the Lord. We should just try to focus on doing our service and acting in such a way and being so dedicated without any kind of desire or expectation that the Lord will reciprocate. And when we do that sincerely and purely enough, then the Lord will reveal himself to us, but we should never have that desire. So I just...
Well, like I mentioned in the beginning, to act in such a way that the Lord will desire to see us. Mm-hmm. And as long as like the desire for that darshan is tantamount to, like, you could say, accelerated service, because by that darshan we will so much increase our desire to serve. Imagine like how much we will chant the holy name with so much love and focus and attention. But and we can't, it's not like we're demanding that I want to see you, but I want to serve you. So like that, and eventually desiring that, but not letting it distract us, to be in the way of service. Anybody else want to comment on that?
Thank you. That's a good point. I think it's the desire and wanting. I think Sri Prabhupada said, don't try to see Krishna, but work so that Krishna will see you. Now that's different from don't desire to see Krishna. Ultimately, the desire is still to see Krishna. But my understanding is when he says don't try to see Krishna, means don't try to override whatever is between you and Krishna, to try to jump and see him, and to be able to see him. But develop the desire. Of course, the desire in the devotee's heart is to always see Krishna, but the mechanism is not that by my own effort I will somehow see him, but rather that by my own service attitude that Krishna will want to come and see me, and this way I'll see him.
Right.
It's a mentality or an attitude that he's advising about more than the mechanism.
Right.
Anyway, thank you so much. I wish we could go on forever, but we'll have to wait until next time when we can schedule you again. So thank you once again, Mother Kamalini and Apurva Prabhu for joining us this evening. And I'm just going to make a couple of quick announcements and then open it up for the devotees to say a quick Haribol. So upcoming speakers. So this is the week coming up. So today we had Mother Kamalini. And then tomorrow, which is Wednesday, so typically Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, we have His Holiness Jaya Advaita Swami Maharaj on the second canto lecture series. So we are trying to now standardize our time at 8 p.m. every day. So this is going to be the daily schedule. And on Thursday, we have Govinda Das Prabhu from Chowpatty. And on Saturday evening, we have Gopal Haridas, a very famous speaker. He's a PhD from Oxford University and just a very great speaker. And on Sunday evening, His Grace Amarendra Prabhu. So we have a lot of nice topics coming up. Just wanted to quickly share that. The Sunday evening time, we haven't quite finalized. Most likely it's going to be 8 p.m. So stay tuned and we will share the actual timings. So thank you once again, dear devotees. Thank you, Maharaj, for coming as always. And thank you all for joining. Please feel free to unmute yourself for a quick reading, and then
a word for Thursday also. Sorry,
what is that, Maharaj?
We put in a word for Thursday also.
Yes. So on Thursday, 7 to 8, we have His Holiness Jadavit Maharaj giving a special class on the topic of Vanaprastha Ashram, what it is, how we can implement it, and so on. This is something that's highly in demand, and a lot of devotees have requested it. And we will be, Maharaj will be sharing the link at some point. I think we have to share, we have to create a link for them to share it.
We did create a link. Let's just see if I have that.
Okay.
Yes, I'll give you a link in a moment while you're talking.
Right. So this particular topic has been talked about a lot, but not talked about enough in our movement. And Maharaj has been very has developed a course around it, a seminar on it, on what exactly is this Vanaprastha ashram? What are different ways that we can observe Vanaprastha within ISKCON in the modern context? And there's not so much clarity, but some of the points that Maharaj that I've heard so far are very exciting. So much so that I want to take Vanaprastha, but my wife isn't quite ready for that yet. So anyway, that's a different story. So here we are, Vanaprastha. It's called the Vanaprastha Adventure. Please make a note of this. It's on the group chat on Thursday, 7 to 8 p.m. on this channel, and Maharaj will be broadcasting from Towaco. So please make a note of this. You can copy and paste it from the chat box. I will also make a copy of it, and then we'll be able to share it on our Facebook and so on, so we have a record of it. All right. So thank you once again, Maharaj, and thank you, dear devotees.
Thank you, Nangopal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So please go ahead and you can say your greeting in a quick Haribol.
Thank you very much.
Haribol.
Such a wonderful class. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, thank you so much. It was a very wonderful class.
Oh, thank you, Chaitanya Babu.
Thank you, Prabhu's wonderful class, Kamalini Devi.
Thank you
Thank you so
for
much.
allowing me. Okay.
Thank you so much again. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Bye.
Kamalini Apurva, thank you. Hari Hari.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol Gopisha.
Thank you for the invite. Haribol.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hey, Hare Krishna. Jai.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much.
Jai Hare Krishna.
Haribol Prabhu.
Goodbye, everybody.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much.
Jai Joyce. Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada ki
Apurva.